I'm thinking about immigrant love for America and comparing it to people I know, myself included, who have only known America as home and who complain about it. There's plenty that could be transformed and complained about, believe me. And there's such a privilege from living here that it's hard to see if you've never lived somewhere else. I think of Madam C.J. Walker, who was born to parents enslaved in the 19th century, and in a few decades became the first woman in America to become a millionaire by selling her hair products to other African Americans. I think of President Obama, who was born 3 years before segregation ended, and within 4 decades became a 2-term president. I think of my own grandfather, who came here in the 50s to the segregated South, a Puerto Rican man who spoke little English and within 2 decades bought a house and won an award for a patent he developed for the military. All the pain, the vitriol, the opposition, even the hatred we see in America is the result of the same magic element that allowed these 3 people to excel: freedom. Speak to anyone who has immigrated here from poorer countries, from radical Islamic rule, from places where women are still regarded as property, places where you can't hold hands with your same-sex lover in public, or where you're laughed at, even throughout Europe, when you have strange entrepreneurial ideas. Freedom, in a lot of ways, sucks. It's inconvenient because all is truly welcome. A free country looks like someone passing a law that I hate. A free country looks like a pro-life Republican spending money at a restaurant owned by a pro-choice liberal. It's a compost heap of difference, tolerance, intolerance, confusion, love, and money. My freedom to write this invites your freedom to criticize it. I have the freedom to criticize and even hate this country, and I've done that. I'm sure I'll do it again. But right now, I'm in an era of using my freedom to love this country, to love this land and love the dream of freedom through an immigrant lens, the lens I was brought up with in my family, which is one of seeing the land as salvation, where anything is possible. And yes, there will be many barriers, but don't let any of it define you. Someone's hatred, someone's laws I despise, and opposition of my own lifestyle comes with the territory of freedom. When I honor their right to that, I empower myself, and I can outcreate my own paradise regardless. I fell asleep to fireworks and woke up to remnant feelings from my grandfather and a sense of gratitude that this country's dream of freedom, albeit hypocritical, throughout many eras allowed him to thrive so I could be here. How could I not feel gratitude for both his spirit and America? I spent years hating this country, hating everything that wasn't going my way. And then I realized the humbling, humiliating practice of freedom is that all are invited to create their own vision of it. Just ask a squirrel trying to cross a busy 4-lane highway, or a dandelion flower sprouting through a hot Walmart parking lot. Freedom sucks, because people I don't agree with are also free. So in the words of my mentor Bill Riddick, we must see everyone's beliefs as sacred to them, even what we call the most vile, oppressive rules and laws and ideas. That doesn't mean I put up with it. It means I work on understanding it. For some people, they are sacred, and that ability to stay open-hearted is a miracle and is the spiritual and somatic practice which lets me sleep peacefully while fireworks explode over my home. The sound that for some is not just a symbol of bombs exploding, but a reality. Even more reason that I feel grateful for my safety. The more I practice this, the less I fear America, because I humanize every American. Every bigot, every hater, every greedy lawmaker, every Monsanto farmer, every horrible presidential debate, and even the limited 2-party system, and the corporations that fund them. No one can escape my ability to humanize them. And because of that, I can truly love America. And through an ancestral lens, I really love America. Like my brilliant colleague Amber Mixia once said, all the ancestors are here. Bodies from every corner of the earth have flocked here. We have so much potential ancestral power and wisdom to weave with one another. That alone excites me and stimulates me through even the most seemingly dark chapters of our history and present day. So when I think of freedom, I think of agency. I look at a portrait of Maya Angelou hanging next to my closet, and I see a quote beneath it, her own quote, which reads, "If you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude." These words have been my golden rule. They are simple, direct instructions for how to not suffer, how to not argue with reality, as Byron Katie would say. Because agency has many forms. There's external expression and changing the shape of one's environment through moving something, speaking something, or walking away from something. And then there's a more hidden, more feminine, more mysterious agency, the one within. The agency of perception, of personal storytelling, of meaning making. If I cannot use my agency to change something around me, I can certainly use my agency to shift my attitude, my lens, and my story. Because suffering exists when we identify with our circumstances. When I believe a policy, a belief, a person, or an external situation defines me, then I have limited my inherently limitless self. And limiting myself is out of touch with reality, and that hurts. I invoke Daryl Davis, who rejected the racialized narrative, and as a black man spent the last 40 years of his life, his freedom, befriending KKK leaders, and accidentally converting 200 of them out of the KKK through love and friendship. I invoke the young men of the Free Gaza Circus who dance, tell jokes, do flips, and bring laughter to hundreds of orphan children, some with the dust of broken, blown-apart buildings still clinging to their sweet small faces. I invoke Madam C.J. Walker, who was born to enslaved parents and didn't internalize any story of inferiority about her race or sex, who used free market capitalism to become the first female millionaire in America in the late 1800s. I invoke my grandfather, who saw himself as equal to the predominantly white world around him in central Pennsylvania, and that allowed him to transcend the poverty that plagued his family for generations as sugarcane plantation workers in Puerto Rico. I invoke my gay mentor who shepherded me through high school and early college, teaching me how to not attach to mainstream narratives of identity that are limiting, who lived in peace and harmony with his husband way before gay marriage was legal. I invoke all the people before me who we would consider as underprivileged but would never consider that for themselves. And I invoke this standing on the dirt of land we call America, a place where freedom is the experiment, and like all experiments is steeped in hypocrisy, mistakes, and contradictions. So notice something with me. We all have a different reality of freedom. We all have a different definition of it. Some of you have more economic freedom. Some of you have more bodily freedom. Some have more mental freedom, as you're not as shackled with dread or fear or ruminations as someone else might be. Can you identify your own freedom? My friend and co-teacher Camille identifies privilege as something you're simply not aware of. She doesn't limit it to your race or sex, nor does she identify you by it. She expands it to be anything you just don't have to think about. This isn't to make you feel guilty or repent. You should love your privilege. Privilege is something to be celebrated, not denied or to feel bad for having, especially considering what your ancestors did so you could have it. And that's how I see freedom. You just spent your freedom listening to this. What else are you doing with your freedom that you don't even notice? When my focus is on you being freer than me, or your freedom being wrong and my freedom being right, I actually lose the connection to my own freedom, which is where my agency lives. My teachers, my relatives, my friends, they've all taught me this, and I see them practicing this. The practice of orienting to your own truth, your own capacity, and your own reality of safety, albeit different from others. And from self-orienting, we can create our own narratives, our own truths, and our own perceptions. We can use a different form of agency. Because my grandfather couldn't snap his fingers and make all the racists, the language barriers, and the prejudice against him just go away, he turned inward. He held his beloved Jesus in his hands against his heart and made his own truth, and he transcended the narrative. Madam C.J. Walker's own great-great-granddaughter, Alelia Bundles, told me that she spent her time attuning to the affluent black women around her, to the intelligent post-enslaved black men who could read and write. She transcended the narrative given to her based on what she oriented toward. So ask yourself with me, a question I ask myself almost every hour: what narrative am I currently attaching to, and does it limit me or expand me? And these narratives are often unconscious. We find them through sensation. You can feel them in your body as constriction, especially when nothing's actually going on. Here I am, constricting about a concept within a perfectly safe room. Here I am in a delicious hot bath, thinking about a future fear. Here I am on my soft, wonderful bed, constricting about other people's thoughts about me. That's real privilege, the safety to ruminate. As I close this episode, just consider how much freedom you might have and how you might lose your connection to it when you're oriented away from yourself. I truly believe our freedom and our agency lives within us, and our circumstances are never always fair or just, and they're definitely not equal. So based on your current circumstance, how much freedom do you have? And how are you able to access your agency through that freedom? You can lay back right now. You can put a pillow behind your head, and you can hold a pillow over your chest and belly and give it a squeeze. And while feeling held, you can look around the room, and you can visually scan the room for threat. And most of you listening to this will visually notice there is no threat in the room. Yet, does your body agree? Does your body soften? Does your body constrict? Is your body filled with a pressure as if something bad is about to happen? You just can't put your finger on it. That's how you know there's an unconscious narrative. There's an unconscious remembering or expecting happening. And if you put your hand over that pressure, over that tension, and ask it to speak to you, ask it to show you an image, ask it what it needs, you'll start finding a world of information you didn't even know existed. And what I started to find was the world that I thought was an external stressful world was actually a projection from my own internal stress. My pain, based on my historical experiences, my future fears, and my unconscious narratives, were being proven and projected at the world around me. When I started to be with what was in me, and that started to shift and that started to release, the world around me became a beautiful place. You don't have to believe me. Try it for yourself. See where it takes you. And notice, how much freedom do you actually have, and how do you want to use it? That's the end of today's episode. Now let's take a moment to notice where we feel the episode in our bodies. Close your eyes. Take a breath. And let whatever wants to come up, come up. And remember, those sensations hold the wisdom that we're looking for. If you want to go deeper, visit holisticlifenavigation.com. I have developed a 4-week self-paced course that takes 18 years of my personal and professional experience and puts it into one place where you can easily and quickly learn the foundations of recovering from stress and trauma. How does the food you eat affect your stress levels? How do the relationships in your life create stress or peace? How does the relationship you have with your body allow you to feel happier and more settled? I will cover all this and so much more in this 4-week self-paced course. And the best part, it's self-paced. You don't have to sign up at a certain date or finish it at a certain time. It's yours for life, and it's waiting there for you when you're ready to finish it. Throughout this course, I'll be teaching you philosophies and practices that combine my 3 favorite modalities: somatic experiencing, embodied parts work, and nutrition. For more information on this course, click on the link in my episode details.